All right, y'all, we are back with what is this? Episode 10 of season 15 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Y'all, I'm still on my vacation, so we are back in the bed. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we're back in the bed. But the episode is called Healing by Sheree. We might want to title it Not Owning It by Sheree, but we'll get to that when we need to get to it. First things first, let's rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10. I mean, for me, it was a cute episode. It was cute in the sense that I felt like, there was some progression, there was some funny moments, things were happening in the episode, right? I felt like we didn't. What I liked about this episode was that it seemed to flow pretty well. I think it was kind of like before we knew it, we were in Portugal. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna probably give this an 8.5. I did feel like I was amused watching it. So I mean, there's that. I mean, let me know. Did you guys feel like you were amused watching it? Did you feel almost like, I don't know. I felt kind of like we were really getting into the nitty gritty of some things, or I feel like we're about to get into the nitty gritty of some things, specifically with Drew and with Ralph. But we'll again get to that when we need to get to it. All right. So first things first, we got to get through the Thanksgiving holiday. We kind of breezed through that, which was good because, I mean, I get the sense that they weren't really filming then. So we get a bunch of cell phone footage or whatnot. But the beginning of this episode is actually going to be a group scene. So it's Brunch It with Drew. Okay, that's what I'm calling it. Or really, Brunch It with Ralph. Okay, Ralph and his aprons. Now, I don't know if y'all knew this or not, but Ralph is now selling those aprons. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You too can buy yourself a Daddy Makes Breakfast apron. Go on over to Ralph Pittman on the line on Instagram, and there you will find yourself some Ralph Pittman apron merchandise for you to run around and cook half naked in. Okay, I too will be wearing the apron right now if I was able to place my order in advance. But unfortunately, y'all got what y'all gonna get today. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but I suppose in the next episode, I too will be doing my recap half naked in my Bacon with Daddy apron that Ralph is now selling on his Instagram. Now back to what I was about to say. All right, so this whole brunch is a nice little send-off, okay, to the ladies before they go off on their trip to Portugal, because apparently ain't nobody been getting along. I mean, it is Housewives. But anyway, people ain't been getting along. So the fellas want to put something together. I mean, the fellas being Ralph, so he can promote these aprons. Want to put together a brunch that the chef is going to cook, that the guys are just going to stand around in the aprons and promote. Okay. So Drew thinks that this was odd to me. Drew said, that this was Ralph's way of showing the ladies that he's a great husband, but she don't really think it's going to work. And I'm like, shouldn't you be having a little bit more faith in your husband? And like, it's given, maybe she's done this confessional and this look very recently. So as she's narrating this scene, maybe she's already gone through the beginning stages of whatever is going on with her and Ralph. And I'm again judging this by the newer confessional look in the red with the red. I think it's red here or it's orange. Y'all tell me because y'all know I'm colorblind. But one of the two, right? So I feel like it was kind of weird for her to say that in that way. Anyway, As the ladies all arrive, Courtney brings Bryce from Groove Theory, who apparently nobody can barely recognize anymore. Now, I don't remember what he looked like in the Groove Theory, but dang, y'all make it seem like he just fell off bad, like he down bad. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Sheree asks where Kenya's guy is, and she says ain't nobody seen him. Well, Sheree, first things first, we didn't seen him because we didn't seen him in the episodes. We didn't seen him on the FaceTime. You ain't seen him, and you don't believe Kenya. I get the sense that she was trying to make it seem like she don't believe the man exists, but I believe Kenya and Roy more than I believe Sheree and Martell. So Sheree, you might want to tread lightly on that, on the man tip. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because at least to me, when I felt like I saw Kenya and Roy, there did seem to be like some level of affection there or something of the like. I don't know. Not you showing up in Huntsville and you ain't even staying at the man's house or whatever like that. But, you's a lady. So I guess maybe you pick and choose what you want to do. You ain't got to stay with that man if you don't want to. I'm just saying, if you trying to make us believe that you and he is together, then y'all might want to make it seem like y'all might have woke up together. But I digress because I had talked about this before. Okay. And so anyway, Drew asked where Martell is. And I'm like, yes, Drew. Okay, get her. Drew was coming for Sheree all episode. And I was low-key loving it because I love that Drew actually got Sheree together later on. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. Anyway, Marlo brings her date, Mr. Scottley. Okay. Now, Candy has met Scottley before because Candy know everybody down to the Atlanta. All right. Anyway, Kenya asked about Candy's movie. Kenya apparently wants an offer for, a role on the show. But unfortunately, that lead role is going to the Drew, okay? Now, with that being said, Candy does let us know that the lead role was particularly made for Drew. I mean, really, because it's the role of a young, sweet, naive woman who kind of gets turned out. Now, the way the blogs make it seem like Drew did get turned out, or Drew was maybe allegedly turning somebody out. That's what the allegations are. But we'll just have to wait and see how that whole situation does play out. But what Candy does say that I thought was interesting is that Drew, she not saying that Drew is naive. She's saying that Drew knows how to play naive. Now that's the gotcha right there. Anyway, Drew then shades Kenya in her confessional that Twal came out 22 years ago. Okay. Now, for those of you guys who are not in the know, Twal is Kenya Moore's. Did she direct that? I'm trying to. I can't quite call it. Did she direct it or an act in it, or did she just direct it? I don't know. She did something, but it's about a three-way. Okay. Anyway, speaking of three-ways, Kenya gets a call from Roy, and oh my God, Marlo has been out on a date with him before. You don't say. Small town. Anyway, Kenya needs to step away to go speak with Roy, okay? She ain't trying to hear what Marlo got to say. So Marlo is checking to see if the man's number is still the same because allegedly, he approached her in the DMs, all right? So Sonya makes it a point to mention it again when Kenya gets back to the table. I felt like they were trying to make this into a moment for Kenya, and Kenya was kind of like, I don't really care. I'm not really giving y'all that type of moment or whatever. And it really just didn't. I felt like it really didn't amount to much, right? So Kenya then shades Marlo and says, well, Roy knows now what not to date, okay? And that would be the Marlo. Anyway, Sheree then says, yo, Drew, is your chef gonna get paid? Because online, in the media, in the blogs, word is that you being sued by a chef that you didn't pay for services. Mm-hmm. And so Drew was like, oh, that's just in the blogs. It is what it is. She came over. It was a hair in the food, allegedly. You know, and we didn't want her here. She didn't come to the house. There was no food. There was a hair in the food. I don't know this woman. I don't know her. My name is Mariah Carey. Her name is J-Lo. I don't know what happened. Why are you bringing this up? Okay? All this, meanwhile, over $1,000. Now, a part of me is like, girl, just give her this $1,000 and be on your merry way. Because chances are, it seemed like the woman might have came over and did a little something. And it might have cost you less to just pay the $1,000 than to have to pay the lawyer's fees to go to court and to deal with the legal matters of the situation and those types of things like that. But then there's also the principle of, on the flip side of it, there's the principle of, I ain't paying you nothing because you ain't do nothing. So allegedly, if we are to believe Drew, nothing happened. There was a hair in the food. There was a spider somewhere. Ralph is making aprons. I don't know what the case is. Anyway, Drew does not want this thing brought up, okay? But you know this is Housewives, so they got to bring up something. So anyway, Drew wants to know why Sheree is bringing it up now because, you know, they had kind of mended their friendship. So they discuss everybody being open to respecting each other on the trip and their healing. Now, Sheree is just happy that, oh my God, Olivia Pope is on the trip, okay? And if you don't know who Olivia Pope is, let me tell you. Olivia Pope is Courtney. Courtney is solving crimes. Courtney is making people look good. Courtney is the crisis manager, and Sheree is going to need her there on the trip to make sure things go well. And so Kenya was like, well, I don't know how good she is at that because she wasn't too good at it with Candy. So Courtney get to, you know, touching hands on Kenya, you know, in a slightly joking fashion. And then somewhere along the way, it turns from joke to not joke. And it turns from stop touching me. Don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me, Courtney. Don't put your hands on me. Now listen, you know, Courtney to me strike me as the I don't know what to do with my hands type of person. You know, that type of person that I don't know you that well, but you still feel comfortable touching me. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm a hugger by nature, so it's difficult for me. I probably wouldn't have minded unless I just didn't like her, and I get the feeling at this point, Kenya just really don't like Courtney. So, I mean, I think that's what it is. But I do feel like don't be doing familiar things with people who are unfamiliar. That's my general rule at this point in time. Now, when I run into y'all like in the streets and stuff like that, I done ran into like a couple of y'all. I'm about to give you a hug. So, I mean, you better get to running because I'm a hugger. That's who I am. That's what I like to do. It's just the South in me. I can't really help it. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not a hugger, then I need you to do the X. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa, give me a Nene. Whoa, you know, back it on up. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Kenya don't want this woman touching up on her. So I guess, you know, Courtney learned her lesson. And so Candy's like, interestingly enough, Candy was like, okay, this brunch is over. Todd, let's go. Deuces. And she get to getting. Now, it was around this time that I had just happened to look on the line, and that's when I saw that Ralph was selling these aprons. And I feel like, you know, I don't know, you know, I'm all for making a profit. You know what I'm saying? I really am. But I guess what I be feeling like is, you know, it's the plan. I like it when it's natural, right? So, like, for me, you know, technically, I can make some shirts that say chatterization, right? Because that's just a phrase that I just been using. I don't know where it came from. It just kind of fell out of my mouth one day, right? So, but I ain't saying I got claim on it or nothing like that. I don't own it or nothing like that. But what I'm saying is, you know, it was a natural thing. So if I put it on a t-shirt, it'd be like, okay, that works because it just kind of happened. What Ralph did to me felt very like planned. Oh, we're going to have this brunch so I can make these daddy make you breakfast aprons and I'm going to sell them on my Etsy. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was given to me. And for that, it just didn't feel that genuine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I be looking for like, and maybe it's me. It's probably me. Because again, I don't hate on people making a coin. But what I do like is when it's a natural flow. Like with Candy and the worldwide thing, it's something that she said in the heat of the moment. Then, oh, duh, it is trending. Let's make it into a thing. That's what I'm saying. That to me felt more natural. And I wish that it had been something else that Ralph would listen. Ralph, if you want to like take your clothes off and things like that, and you got to audition, we learning that. I mean, so you ain't got to be selling aprons. Just open up an OnlyFans at this point. I mean, for real, for real. I mean, if you want to do the Magic Mike and stuff like that, like there's a market for what you're trying to do. But it was like the aprons. I was just like, bro, I don't know about it. Anyway, let me get off these aprons until I buy one. Meanwhile, everybody arrives at the airport because it's time to go to Portugal. Candy got the bubble guts. That's a big thing on this episode. Candy and these bubble guts, can't nobody get over it. Let me tell you something. It ain't nothing worse than traveling and being sick. Trust me, I done it before and lived through it, and thank God to live through it. But at the end of the day, it is the absolute worst because ain't nothing you can do about it but get through it. Meanwhile, Sheree is really on this being a healing trip, right? And I'm kind of with Drew. But I didn't get that yet. I'm gonna wait. Anyway, as the ladies begin to check in on their hubbies, that's when we learn that, one, Drew be wondering what Ralph is doing when he be traveling these other cities, and B, he got an audition for the Chocolate City, which is AKA the Magic Mikes of it all in the Vegas, okay? Which is all very interesting to the rest of the group. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm like, maybe she had one foot out the door at this point and she didn't really care. I really don't know. I mean, but it just seemed real interesting. I thought that he worked in the tech space or something like that. So it just seems like an odd little, listen, I'm all about a pivot. Y'all know, I really am in life because I feel like you should be able to like swerve and do whatever it is that you want, that your heart desires. But I feel like, ain't that a jump? That's a real big old jump right there. But anyway, y'all let me know how y'all feel. Y'all going to see, Ralph with the aprons in the Magic Mike show? Let me know if y'all are or not. Okay, I'm trying to find out. So anyway, we learned, Drew has never been to Africa, okay? Because we learned that just south of where they are in Portugal is Africa. And Drew's like, I've never been to Africa, just South Africa. Hello? Is this thing on? Drew. Africa, South Africa. Who's gonna tell her? Who gonna tell her? What I do know is that Monyetta got an orphanage in Africa. Now, see, this is the type of thing I want to see on my housewife shows. We need to go ahead and make Monyetta into a housewife. Now, I know a lot of y'all don't think she's like, got that. Listen, as Nene says, we talked about it, she got the I, but she ain't got the T. I don't know. She got an orphanage. So she might got the I, the T, and the O. So I think we might need to go ahead and take a chance on Monyetta because I want to see schools in Africa. Okay, that's what I want to be talking about. I want to be talking about that level of fabulosity and giving back and goings on and those types of things, right? You know what I'm saying? Give me more of that. All right, give me a lot of that actually, because I want to see it. I want to see what it's like. Give me orphanages. All right. So anyway, Drew wonders why to Monyetta, Sheree brought up the lawsuit, and she's like, Sheree, you've been well known. It's well documented that you have allegedly not paid a lot of people. So why are you coming for me when we had made up, in this whole situation? So Marlo and Sanya are talking, and Marlo is really, Marlo's kind of chill in this scene, but it's really Sanya that's like So why is it such a big deal that Martell was in Kenya's DMs before he dated Sheree, but it's not a big deal that Roy was in Marlo's DMs before Kenya dated him? And I'm like, I don't think that it is the same. To me, it's different. To me, it's more about, hey, there were rumors that Martell was already messing around with other people in the Atlanta area. So then it became a situation where I do think that, okay, Kenya could have told Sheree this way back when, right? But I also think that in tandem with the rumors about Martell, I felt like that's why this whole thing came up with Kenya and Martell in these DMs. And I don't think it was necessarily a big deal about it until until he started reacting to it in that moment and kind of going back and forth with her. So I think that's what made it into a bigger deal. Now, the Roy and Marlo thing, I feel like listen, the way it came up, Marlo said I dated him. That was it. It is what it is. If that's the fact, that's the fact, and we can move on from it. It doesn't seem like it needs to be anything that's like played out into something else, especially because Marlo is dating Scottley. So who cares at this point? Like, it just, I mean, yeah, it does go to show that they got similar interests, right? You know what I'm saying? They got more, but we all already knew they got more in common than they don't. To be quite honest with you, Marlo and Kenya. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's big differences, but at the end of the day, I do be feeling like they got more alike than they do differences. So anyway, for Kenya and Candy, everybody seems cool. Kenya tells Candy she had already known that Roy had dated Marlo, so it didn't really mean anything to her. So at dinner time, Sheree wants to put everything out on the table. So Courtney brings up not knowing that Kenya had a problem with her because Kenya had already told Sheree that she felt like she was having a hard time getting to know Courtney. But then there was the whole "don't touch me" moment. So, Kenya kind of tells her, like, listen, like, I feel like what Drew said at the brunch was accurate. Kenya was setting a boundary, and that's good for the group to do. It's to set boundaries. Let people know that, hey, this is not okay. I don't necessarily mind Courtney having brought these issues up because, at the end of the day, it was an issue. And the reason why she knew it was an issue is because apparently after Kenya had the conversation with Sheree, Sheree had a conversation with Courtney, and then Courtney, I think, had a conversation with Drew, if I'm correct. Is that correct? No. This is what it was. Drew found out from Courtney that Sheree was talking about the lawsuit to her. So cousin Courtney coming through for Drew in the clinch, even though Sheree is the person that brought Courtney into the group. Now that's a plot thickening moment that I felt like we kind of really bypassed right there, right? Because that's a little bit of a dilemma. You got Sheree, who is bringing this woman in, but you got Drew, who is allegedly the cousin to Olivia Pope. This is deep, y'all. This is deep. So anyway, apparently Drew had found out from Courtney that Sheree had been talking about this lawsuit behind Drew's back, and Drew wants to approach her about it because Drew is like, I thought we were, doing good, so why have you gone backwards with me? And Sheree is like, well, you was lying about having She by Sheree confiscated. And Drew is like, we already talked about this. Like, why are you still on it? This is what that moment felt like to me. That moment felt to me like Drew had a point. Now, whether or not it was that serious is another matter. But Drew had a point. Sheree had done something that Drew didn't like, As a friend, she confronted her about it and wanted to know why she did it. Instead of responding to what Drew was asking of her, Sheree continued to deflect, 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 okay, until she couldn't deflect no more. I mean, even to the point where Candy had to kind of jump in and say, girl, like, first of all, the people did confiscate the She by Sheree stuff after the reunion, as Drew stated. Kenya also has to state it. Sanya even has to state she didn't get nothing. And the items that they did get, somebody on Sheree's team, who Sheree now doesn't know who did it, took the merchandise that they received on the screen back after the cameras were not rolling, right? So it looked like Sheree's coming and bringing them all the She by Sheree merch, but behind the scenes, from what we're hearing, it's being taken back, right? But Marlo somehow ends up with at least 15 pieces, though. I mean, Marlo's got those things hanging up at Late Archive, I'm sure. She might even be dressing her clients with the She by Sheree merchandise and apparel. I don't know. Or maybe she can join forces with Ralph. Let me ask y'all a question. Now that you know that Giselle and Ashley have an activewear line out, let me ask you a question. Whose line are you buying? Are you buying She by Sheree at a price point of about $274 for the jogger suit? Or are you purchasing Giselle and Ashley's GNA apparel activewear line? What you gonna purchase? Let me know in the chat. I just want to know. Or will you be purchasing option 3, which is a Bake It Daddy apron sold by Ralph? Those are your 3 options. You let me know in the chat what you guys would like for me. Listen, y'all, if who get the most votes is what I'm buying, okay? Let's put it like that. Whoever get the most votes, that's what I'm buying, and we're going to just leave it like that. Last thing. The one thing that I felt like Drew did a very good job of reading Sheree on is basically that if you're incapable of moving forward, how are you going to have a trip of healing if you can't even heal yourself? I said, you better get her together. You better get her together. So at this point, as Sheree is literally running from the topic of conversation, Drew get to running out the restaurant. She get emotional, and they got to go and try to follow her. And Kenya's telling Sheree, like, girl, you're not doing a good job as a hostess. Like, I mean, I did feel like I was on Drew's side in this situation. Y'all let me know whose side y'all were on. And listen, we'll continue to talk more news around the episode once I get done with my travels. But I did want to bring y'all this bit of tea right here about and recap this episode. All right, I'm going to catch y'all in the next video.